Well, welcome back, everybody. It's your boy, Coach UV, and this is the Unique Trading Group, where strategy meets mindset and discipline turns into income. There's power in that. Let it marinate. Think about it. Today, I have an interesting video for you. This is the good, the bad, and the profitable. All right, there are both sides to this new Trump bill, this big, beautiful bill that they call it. And I want to give you some commentary on what I think could prepare you for the next couple of months and the next couple of years. I don't take any sides on this, but I also want you to understand different variations of this bill. Again, I am Coach UV. I'm represented by the Unique Trading Group, where strategy meets mindset and discipline turns into income. I appreciate you clicking on this video tonight. All right, do me a favor and hit that like button if this brings value to you tonight, and hit that bell notification on the subscribe button just in case you want to be informed on the most valuable videos. All right, so tonight, the good, the bad, and the profitable. Hope you're ready for some good commentary. All right, we're going to be back with the show after this commercial break.
While President Trump was touring the new facility today, his so-called Big Beautiful Bill narrowly passed the Senate, and it now heads back to the House, where it faces another tough fight. Local 10's Ross Ketchke live down in Washington with the very latest. Ross?
Yeah, Calvin, this bill passed with just about as narrow of a margin as you can get here on Capitol Hill. In fact, Vice President J.D. Vance had to step in and break up a 50-50 tie in the Senate to get the bill passed and sent along to the House.
Now we're here, passing legislation that will permanently extend tax relief for hardworking Americans.
Getting the bill through the Senate was a gauntlet. Republican leaders able to hold on to key swing votes after an all-night session debating amendment after amendment. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul was one of 3 Republicans to vote no, worried the bill would worsen the national debt.
This is not a fiscally conservative bill, and if you're someone who thinks the debt is a problem, I don't see how you can vote for this now.
The bill is a roadmap for the president's biggest policy goals. It increases funding for defense and border security, extends tax cuts, and makes sweeping reforms to social programs to target what the president calls waste, fraud, and abuse.
It's a great bill. Nothing's easy because we made a great thing. We added everything in there for everybody.
But Democrats say the bill will rip away services like Medicaid and SNAP food assistance from millions of Americans.
Because of this bill, tens of millions will lose health insurance. Millions of jobs will disappear.
Through the gun, President Donald Trump has made it clear he wants this bill on his desk for his signature by the 4th of July. Before leaving for Florida today, he did make it clear that he'd be open to potentially extending that deadline. But since then, especially since the Senate passed it earlier today, he's gone back to July 4th. It's a date he has circled on the calendar, and he wants this job done.
Very, very touchy subject, I would say so myself. Let's continue the commentary on this live update for the Big Beautiful Bill.
Israel and Iran, which continues to hold. Then, the president traveled to the Netherlands and achieved a monumental win for the United States and the NATO alliance by getting our allies to dedicate 5% of their GDPs to military spending. As a result of President Trump unleashing American energy dominance, summer gas prices are at the lowest they have been in 4 years, heading into the July 4th week. And with the incoming Trump economic boom, the stock market continues to roar back, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both hitting record highs. And on this point of an economic boom, I bring to you original correspondence from the President of the United States to our Fed Chair, Jerome Powell. As the president has consistently stated, the American economy is booming. And there were so many economic analysts who said that this president's policies would drive our economy down, when in fact we have seen the opposite. We've seen a massive deregulation campaign take place. We've seen inflation completely diminished from where it was under the reckless spending and the bad policies of the previous incompetent administration. I would remind the Fed chair, and I would remind the entire world, that this is a president who was a businessman first, and he knows what he is doing. He has a proven economic formula that worked in his first term as president, and it is working again. The one problem that remains is high interest rates for the American people. The American people want to borrow money cheaply, and they should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we have interest rates that are still too high. So the president sent this note to the Fed chair today. And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates. Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world. The president sent this note to the Fed chair. It says, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the USA a fortune and continue to do so. You should lower the rate by a lot. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being lost, and there is no inflation. And the president...
All right, as you can see, that is a very, very touchy subject. And no matter what side of the aisle that you're on and the level of understanding that you may have or lack thereof, you can't deny that there is something going on in this country. And today is going to be some live commentary and stock talk. All right. So if you clicked on this video, getting some value in mind, that's exactly what you tuned in for. All right. So I want to remind you guys who I am. I am Coach UV, represented by the Unique Trading Group. And if you are someone struggling to find consistency in trading, if you're busy, you're new, a little skeptical about trading stocks, all right, I'm exactly for you. All right. You're exactly who I help. All right. So click that link above. All right. Take that free course. Let me show you how to turn discipline into income. And if you find value, do yourself a favor. Get that one-on-one coaching, book a free discovery call, and/or join a thriving community Discord. All right. The Unique Trading Group. Now, moving on along. This is what I want you guys to keep in mind. There are two Americans. Okay. There are two Americans in this thing. Two stories, all right, but only one truth, all right? There's one truth, okay? And the truth is that there are trillions of dollars just got reassigned, all right? Trillions of dollars just got reassigned, all right? Someone's about to win, all right? Someone else about to get left behind, all right? So this is not a politics video, all right? It's more, as I said, this is not a politics video. And I want to be careful as the information I'm giving forth. All right. And it's not just a stock video. This is about reading the game. When the governments move money, they create new winners and losers. And I'm going to show you who's winning, who's losing, and how to position like a sniper in this chaos. All right. You understand? The good. All right. This is the good. All right. So the winners of the bill, I want you to get a pen and paper. All right. So you could take notes. All right. I'm going to go through some of the triggers and show you, but I want you guys to have this written down, even though you can watch the recording and/or rewind this video if you wanted to take some notes. But this is the good side of things. All right. The winners of the bill. All right. These are policy-backed industries with tailwinds. All right. Fossil fuels, defense, infrastructure, banks, strategic tech. All right. So let's just start with something that you guys are familiar with, right? The energy sector, oil and gas, right? So let's think about triggers like EOG or XOM or BTU or even CVX. Okay. Just for that example here, we're going to leave SPY. SPY is one of those tickers as well. All right. That have been soaring, correct? All right. So we're going to look at CVX. And what does CVX do right now? All right. CVX has been going up ever since. Okay. And what do we have here on the monthly time frame? All right. Right here on the monthly time frame, we have, all right, a little bit of momentum towards the upside. All right. Looks like a bull flag measured move to me. We're going to have to get past that upper resistance, this parallel channel of the flag, in order for us to see any continuation. All right. And also right here above 152.88, 152.88. This is going to be a position where we want to break above. If we can reclaim that price, all right, from 148 to 152.88, 152.88 is going to be a demand zone, a place to look for to reclaim for bull momentum towards the upside. I need for 152 to hold as support and or demand. Okay. All right. Another thing you could think about is the defense sector, right? The defense sector. Okay. Now this is one that I'm going to give you that's really slept on. It's really slept on. Nobody's talking about it, but you getting an exclusive here with the Unique Trading Group, rocking with Coach UV. You're going to get this ticker, right? All right. It's FTNT. All right. FTNT. I think this is a silent killer. All right. 150 billion earmarked for missile defense. All right. That's what comes with this big, beautiful bill. Right. 150 billion earmarked. All right. For missile defense, cybersecurity, and military expansion. All right. So Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, RTX. All right. I like FTNT. You know, you can check out these tickets yourself, but this chart here looks pristine to me. Okay. Now we have a technical bear trap here on a monthly time frame. This W shape here, where the bears were exhausted. All right. The bears were exhausted. They tried once, they tried twice, right? We trapped in their money. We used their stops as fuel towards the upside. Okay. Right here at this neckline. Okay. Same like here. Okay. Once we broke that neckline, like right here, we seen continuous upside. All right. There's your gamma squeeze. There's your breakout. All right. Right here, we get continuous momentum. All right. And now we are forming what you would call maybe some sort of flag. All right. We have higher lows and higher highs. But right now we don't have a current higher high. And what you want to look for on this chart, all right, we're holding the point of control here at 95.94. All right. We're holding the point of control. All right. We need to keep it plain and simple. All right. We need to get past 106, all right? 106.12 to be precise. 106.12 here on this monthly time frame needs to be reclaimed. If we can burst past that and that number can find demand, I want to look towards the upside. If we can get past that, the next targets are 108, 109, and 110, all right? And you can look towards this upside for that 115, right? But this is a longer term play as long as these companies are benefiting from the Trump administration. The Trump administrative policies. So you could look for leaps. If you trade options, if it's your first time listening, options are a strategy that some traders use when they want to get shares of a company cheap. So for instance, this stock is $105. Just to keep the math simple, if I wanted to buy 10 shares, I would have to spend 105 times 10. You do the math on that, $1,000+ for that. If I wanted to get 100 shares, I'm sorry, not 100 shares, but 10 shares. But if I wanted to get 10 or 50 or 100 shares inside of the options market, I might pay $200 for 100 shares, just maybe $100 more than what that price is itself for the stock. You understand? And so the option chain allows you to go out 2 years, 3 years, depending on the derivative, depending on the stock, and allows you to buy in the future. This stock for the next 2 or 3 years could be benefiting from Trump's policies unless things change. So you keep that in mind. Rewind the video for the levels if you need to. But as for now, we are going to move on. All right. Now let's move on to the infrastructure and materials. Okay. I like this sector. I'm not too fond of some of the charts that I've seen, but I'm going to bring it to your attention because they do matter. One that did stand out of some of the tickers was MLM. All right. MLM. This is Martin Marietta. All right. This is part of infrastructure and materials. All right. As you can see here, you have another break similar to one of those other charts we've seen. All right. We have a break. All right. Break above the neckline, gamma squeeze, continuation, two leg up. All right. And now we have one of these continuation patterns where we're trying to make a bull flag measured move here on MLM. So here we have a parallel channel. We want to grab this high of this wick here. Okay. Here in our information highway, our race theory. Remember, race stands for range, auction, control, and execution. That's your race theory. All right. That's your race theory. All right. That video is also on my playlist inside of my YouTube description. So check out that link below and you can join and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you're not familiar with race theory, this is something that I came up with and I created to simplify trading. All right. We just use a roadmap, literally race theory. You get it? All right. All right. So what do we need to see here for MLM? All right. We got to get past this midway point. All right, we are on a monthly time frame. In order for us to see continuous upside, we're going to have to pass 560.82. 560.82 needs to break. All right, and hold. We need to get to that price and hold. 560.82 needs to hold as a place of demand for us to see further side to the upside. It needs to hold as support. All right. Okay, if we can get to 560.82 and we get there from 557, all right, your next target is going to be 569.81. All right, 569.81. If that reaches there and we're able to pass there and that price holds, right? Don't be greedy if you got into the trade watching this video, liking the chart and taking an entry on a pullback on your choosing time frame. If you do take the trade and you are in the money before these other prices like 569 hit and you can see we're at 557, then you are to secure profits and don't be greedy. But just understand at 569, there could be some explosive moves towards the upside. So you don't want to have fear of missing out. You just want to make sure that you're locking in some gains and locking in some profits if these stocks want to, explode towards the upside. Okay, so just understand that. All right, these are long-term holds. All right, inside of the option chain, find 2027 or 2026 next year. All right, find a good price and find a realistic strike based on the levels that somebody like me gives you based on our experience in the market. Okay, these are explosive time frames like the monthly time frame, giving you a more powerful punch, all right, for your setup and your marking of your charts. All right, so that was infrastructure. All right, infrastructure and materials. All right, MLM. So now we're going to move on to banks and financials. Now, the one that I really like, of course, is JP Morgan. All right, we're going to move on along. I appreciate you guys rocking with me and watching this far. You're taking this walk with me. And it's a beautiful thing because you're going to be in a better position. I don't want to even spend a lot of time on this chart. You can see that this chart is really bullish. Let me take off of these extra lines. These have been markups from months and years ago, and they're playing out, all right? We have bullish continuation, breaking over highs, all right? So I expect JP Morgan to go about another $30, $40, all right, within the month, within the next quarter, all right? And towards the end of this year, that's what I expect, all right? All right, I expect 4 strong bars before some sort of sell-off into next year, possibly some main event. All right, don't quote me on that, but just looking at structure and timing and seasonality, you just never know. But JP Morgan is bullish. All right, now when you want to go to the selective solar stocks, we're gonna move on. I do like ticker symbol RUN. I am in cause myself. I informed the Discord group that I'm in about these tickers, but I am in this stock. All right, RUN. All right, now their tax credits remain for the big bill. But the weaker names are dying. All right, so you got to stick to the leaders. You have to stick to the leaders. All right, same with the bank and the financials. When I give you JP Morgan, another ticker symbol you can check out is HBAN. HBAN is Huntington Bank Shares. All right, it's a regional play with upside. HBAN. And just real quickly, we can hop back over to that HBAN, and then we'll hop back over to RUN. This chart here is a really nice chart, and I'm sorry I didn't put it on your radar. I just know that JP Morgan is bullish, and if this banks follow like sympathy plays or things that lag after JP Morgan, they're going to work as well. So you can put this on your radar, HBAN, all right, because they do have increased lending, looser capital rules, and less scrutiny for regionals because of this big bill that Trump has passed in the administration. All right, so let's hop back over to the solars before we move on. Appreciate you guys rocking with me thus far. If you have been liking the video, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. All right, so you're notified when I drop valuable videos. All right, last but not least, last sector is solar. RUN. I'm in RUN. I love this stock. I see a high break. I see a break of $10.76. All right, we're at $10.50. All right, so I'm just literally waiting patiently, sitting, holding my leaps. All right, I have leaps, and leaps is a long equity a long equity position that I'm holding. All right, that's what leaps are. Something that you hold in the equities market for a long period of time. You buy time on the contract. You don't have to hold it for a year or 6 months or 3 months. You can hold it for a longer time period with the expiration you choose, like next year or 2027. You're buying that time so that you have a cushion for the trade to work out. All right, if the stock explodes the next week, you can just close your trade and take your profit. But just having that cushion is better. So I do expect a break. All right, at 1076, we can see prices as far as 15. I am going to be holding run. I do have leaps into next year. And so we're going to see where this goes. If I get a rejection somehow around the numbers I gave out, 1076, which we're close to it. So ironically, we could see that next week. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to see these prices. But if I see any sort of rejection, I will be moving on and taking my profits. I am in profit on run, and it just keeps running. All right, I'm up over 50% on that trade. So if you're in the Discord and you took that trade with me, congratulations. All right, so I wanted to give you that. All right, and listen, run is still volatile. All right, another ticker you might heard about is First Solar, FSLR. All right, it's only a U.S. solar manufacturer, but it has strong margins. All right, so run is still volatile. This ticker here, and the FSLR is more of an institutional friendly chart. All right, I could just let you see it quickly. FSLR. All right, this chart is just looks better. It's not coming from a down ways. We have a technical W pattern showing up on the chart that could show up. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I love the W, and here it is again, showing up in front of you yet again on another video. All right, and again, this is the big beautiful bill video, right? The good, the bad, and the profitable. All right, this is what this is about. We have two Americans torn in between, and you just happen to be clicking on this video, getting some good game and commentary based on structure and what I see in the market. All right, and so on this FSLR chart, I'm breaking that neckline. All right, will be an explosive move. We are now here sitting around 185. If we break 189.50 on FSLR, all right, we will have a explosive move towards the upside. Next targets are 202. All right, this being a simple line break, we could get an explosive move to the upside. All right, and we already started to see that. All right, this thing can shoot up to 234 and work its way up to $300. A long hold, finding long-term contracts, leaps longer, 6 months, a year, 2 years. All right, you need to find the right price, the right volume, the right open interest, the right delta and gamma mixed together, or a banging combination. And if you don't know, these are option Greeks. Option Greeks are something inside of an option chain that allows you to trade options. All right, if you don't know what it is, leave me a comment below. All right, and I'll make sure that I make a video for you guys on that subject. All right, so I'm going to go back to the SPY chart. All right, these are the tickers that I wanted you guys to have. All right, I'm super bullish on SPY. All right, we could be rallying at the market. All right, we could be rallying at the market. All right, but that is the point. All right, and so the bad part of this, all right, the bad part of this is the shift, the cost of the shift. Okay, so none of this comes for free. The same money that flows into oil fields and defense contractors get striped from somewhere else. You know, like social safety cuts. You know, SNAP benefits. Food stamps, Medicaid and housing assistance rollback, public health funds relocated. All right. If you're lower income, immigrant, or disabled, this bill is subtraction, not an addition. So it's just, excuse me, guys. It's just some things like tariffs fallout. If the tariffs come back, you want to be cautious. Higher costs for consumer goods, paying for the import heavy retailers, like supply chain shock risk, right? These are like warning signs. Warning signs will be Walmart, Tesla, Nike, all right? Warning signs for these companies, all right? These names might hold for now, but inflation risk could flip the script, all right? So think about debt and inflation shock risk, all right? 4.5 trillion has been added to the deficit. All right, rising bond yields. All right, market drag. That's what that equals, a market drag. And we also have credit markets tightening. All right, so you want to check out the TLT chart. That is the bond chart, the 10-year trend, the 10-year yield trend of the bond chart. All right, TLT. All right, so this is the part nobody wants to talk about, all right? If debt balloons and yield rise, then the entire risk trade gets shaky. That's why we don't chase, we just position, all right? And so that brings me to another strategic thing, is the profitable strategic positioning, all right? This isn't about loving or hating the bill. It's about using it, all right? Use the trend, use the chart, use the fact that most people aren't watching closely. And I just want to recap again on some of the things that I gave to you before we head over to the ending of this video. Okay, just to recap, all right? Energy, all right? Defense, cybersecurity, financials, materials, solar, all right? These are some of the sectors that are going to be benefiting, all right? So you don't have to like the bill, but if you're in the markets, you must understand that this is a map. The capital flows are already in motion. We play both sides, not for politics, but for positioning. That's why this separates us, right, from speculators, all right? It separates us that and gets us over to the strategy lane, all right? This is the Unique Trading Group, where strategy meets mindset and discipline turns into income. This is how you move inside of the matrix. I'm Coach UV, and this is the good, the bad, and the profitable. All right. Hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next time, peace.